Welcome to the Strangers on the Way podcast. I am so excited and honored for you to meet someone from across the Atlantic Ocean for those of us in the States, all the way from Scotland, Christa Lyth. I met Christa through my work with an organization called Fusion. We help churches reach college students, love and disciple them. And Christa leads the Scotland team. And so she's overseeing the whole nation in outreach to churches. And she's an incredible leader. I got to be with Christa a couple of weeks ago in person, and we jumped in 5 degrees Celsius, which I think is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, cold Loch Lomond water. And it was wild, but it was actually one of the most beautiful, like alive experiences as well. And Christa is so fun. She's so wise. She has stories for days, and I'm just so excited for you all to meet her and to hear about her and her life. So, Christa, would you mind just sharing a little bit more about you? And welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Lauren. Yes, it is a joy to be here. I guess the first thing I should share is that I have somewhat of a chameleon accent. So already and throughout the podcast, my accent will probably get more and more American, which is always awkward. But that is just what happens. And there we go. It just reflects the accent of whoever I'm speaking to, which can get me into trouble. But that we just have to roll with it. But I guess the reason for that is because I have traveled a lot, and particularly when I was younger, lived in a number of different countries and towns and cities. So had a number of different accents myself. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I love to play games, almost any game apart from Monopoly, which is a little controversial, but I think it's trash. Which, to be fair, is because it's designed to be a trash game. It's just taken off widely, but that's another story.
It's designed to be a trash game. What does that mean?
Yes, it's designed to show the pitfalls of the American system of owning property and how this is unjust and unfair.
There you go.
That what it was designed to show. And in a funny, not funny turn of events, it's became a global winner of the game. So anyway, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Monopoly. What's your favorite game or top three?
Oh, I mean, it depends on the situation. I'll give three for three different situations. Like group party game, beat that. Just you can't beat that. It's hilarious and excellent.
I
And
don't know that one.
also,
Will you explain it?
yes, you have to like. There's lots of different challenges that you have to do, and you have to guess if you can do the challenge or not. And then everybody has to do the challenge, and you get points based on whether you did it, but also if you guessed correctly, whether you would be able to do it or not.
Cool.
Lots of like throwing balls and balancing things on chopsticks and things like that.
Fun. I love
So
that.
yeah, it's
Kind of an active game.
yes. And then in terms of a table, like kind of board-esque game, playing a lot of Azul recently, and that is a tile-based board game essentially, and it is fun and very different every time you play it. And then for a third, I do love a game of Yahtzee. Just keeps
Yay!
on giving. Short, fun, play it wherever, inside, outside, whatever. Yeah.
I love that. Yahtzee's so fun. I hadn't played it since I was little, but we just played it in Florida, a month or so ago with my fam. That's so fun. I love that. Who instilled your love of games into you?
Ooh. Oh, I don't know. I guess we just always play games growing up.
Mhm.
And I would say I probably have always been one of the main encourager of games since I was little, but we just always play games as a family, I guess.
I love that. And you still do, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do like to play games as much as possible.
So fun. I love that. Okay, and so you lived a bunch of places. Where have you lived? And now you're in Scotland, and I'd love to hear like what are your favorite things about Scotland?
Mm. So I was born in Bahrain, which is a small island country off the coast of Saudi Arabia. And then we moved to England, to one place in England. Then we moved to another place in England. Then we moved to Saudi Arabia. We lived there. Then we moved back to England. Then we moved to a different place in England. Then we moved to Scotland when I was 11, to a place called Dunfermline. And then I moved to Glasgow for university, and I have lived here ever since. But I guess during that time, my parents also lived in Sierra Leone and Uganda, so I spent some time out there with them when I was a student in my holidays, and when I was a recent grad. So yes, and then you had a second question.
Yeah. What are some favorite things about living in Scotland? So Scotland's like the majority of time that you've spent, but you've been, I mean, okay, I have many questions, but let's do that one.
I love Scotland because I love with beautiful countryside. Particularly I love the west coast of Scotland, is incredibly beautiful. I like, like anywhere, it's got a mix within the culture, but I like the culture, fairly down to earth type people, and yeah, have a little bit of a slower pace of life than some other places, which I think is good and healthy. Yeah, those are some of the reasons I like Scotland.
I love that. My favorite thing about Scotland this month is the ceilidh. Could you tell us about growing up and learning whatever that is?
Yes. So ceilidh dancing is very common in Scotland, particularly at weddings. Almost every wedding will have a ceilidh, but other functions may well also have a ceilidh. And we get taught ceilidh dancing in school. And yeah, to be fair, when I first moved to Scotland, I was in my last year of primary school, and everybody already had the people like that they dance with. So I had to dance with the boy that nobody wanted to dance with, which was
Oh,
a little sad, but it was okay.
big one for the team.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun, because then when you go to a wedding or whatever, most people who have at least been raised in Scotland know, or have some memory of the dancing. And yeah, I was trying to describe it the other day to another American, and I said, I was trying to explain how, what type of dancing was, and I was like, it's quite raucous, and it can be a mixture between a dance and a fight.
A fight.
Yes, because people always say you haven't been to a good ceilidh if you haven't come away with bruises.
This is true.
Yes. So that's the thing. So yeah, but it's a lot of fun, and I think because it's got like steps and moves, and like you can do whatever you want, but like there's a base set, it means that kind of everybody has confidence to get up and join in. Whereas if it's just like a disco or whatever, lots of people will never get up and dance. Whereas a ceilidh, most people are happy to join in, because yeah, it has some structure to it.
Oh, it's so fun. I got to go when I was there, and I was just amazed. You're right. Everyone just knows the steps, and they were very kind, and I learned them slowly. But yeah, it was just so neat to see like such a wholesome dancing, because I think in the States, at least in college when you go out, it's like nightclubs and you just don't know what you're gonna get. But this was like everyone was dancing with everyone, and it was kind of like square dancing, I guess, but cooler. If you guys have square dancing. And yeah, it was just like everyone had such joy, and I don't know, it's such a neat piece of culture, I would say. Yeah, that I'd never really seen before.
It is a thing we do well. It's a ceilidh.
Yes. Yes. So neat. All the traditions are like really, really interesting in Scotland. So good. So you lead Fusion Scotland, and how did you get connected with loving like college age students?
Yeah, I guess so. When I was 11, my oldest brother did his gap year at the church where Fusion was first started, and it was started at that same time. So he was kind of around that. And so he was involved with students, and I think he ran a student small group, I forget. And then my sister was involved with leading student small groups. Some of my uncles and aunts and things would do like student lunches and stuff after church. So my whole kind of teenage years, I guess I was around that. We used to have student leader weekends away at my house when I was a teenager. And so I guess for me, like just go even my choice of where I applied to university and where I went was based around where I knew there was cool stuff going on in terms of student mission, and stuff that I wanted to get involved in. And so I guess like for me, that was just like, that's what you do when you go to uni. So I was, involved in leading stuff pretty much from when I first went to uni. And I guess it just kind of went from there. Yeah.
That's so neat. And what has it been like leading the Scotland efforts?
Mm. What has it been like? What a broad question. I would
Very
say,
broad. You can take it in
uh,
any direction.
yeah, I guess what has been cool about it is, so before I started leading Fusion Scotland, I was a local church student worker for 7, 8 years. And so what's been cool about doing stuff nationally is that I get to see what's going on nationally, and I get to be a part of that and be a part of helping people connect together, and all that kind of stuff. So that's been really cool to see stuff across the nation.
Yeah, I love that with Fusion USA as well. It's like you kind of get a broad scope of how God's moving across the whole country, and it's like you can pick up different themes. What are you noticing now among students in Scotland? And I know as you were starting, God kind of gave you a message that he wanted you to know for Scotland. I just think it's beautiful. Could you share that as well?
Hmm. Yeah, I think, what am I noticing? I'm noticing a much greater openness to spirituality, and that is being explored in all kinds of forms, but it also, with that comes an openness to Jesus and an openness to the church. So I think it's a really exciting time that we're in. I've never seen anything like it in the last 18, 19 years I've been involved with student work. So I'm going to be fascinated to see where that goes. I think when I very first started, like you say, I was just praying about Fusion Scotland and about the nation, about the students, and I felt like God was like, you need to tell them that I'm not disappointed in them. And I thought it was kind of an interesting message. And in one hand, it's like, we're used to, I don't know, that I am, I am proud of you, I am whatever, but that was the phrase, I'm not disappointed in you. And that's been what, 5, 6 years now I've been heading up Fusion Scotland. And I guess I don't think I think there's other things also that God is saying, but I think that thing is still something that I feel like he wants to say to the students. And it's really interesting when I do say that to students, the kind of response that I get, or the sense that you feel in a room. And I think you do feel like, oh, they do think that God is disappointed in them. And obviously not everybody, but that comes as a bomb, I guess.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, how does that get into our minds? And
I think it's a lot of different things. I think, and I think some of it is actually not necessarily, well, I think it's partially not necessarily from negative things. I think it comes from an awareness, or some kind of framework that God is incredibly holy and incredibly good and perfect, and so there's this awareness that we are not. And so I think there's a sense of that disparity that people feel, and I think that can lead to good things, that awareness, but it also, I think, if there's a lack of understanding of grace, I guess, then I think it leads to, or it can lead to, that sense that we are disappointing. And I think also I think part of it, yeah, so I think part of it is around our own sin or sense of lack. But I think also, I don't know, I think both in Christian and non-Christian spheres, I think there can be a sense that we have to be like incredible to be worth something. Do you know, we have to like change the world, and we have to do this, and we have to have this incredible career, or we have to, you know, to be enough, to not be disappointing. And so I guess if anybody is not like student of the year, head of the most amazing society, and this and this and this, and the best grades and the best whatever, then I think people can feel like they're failing, and yeah, and feel like they have to be more than they are.
That's so wise. And Krista's so wise, guys. Yeah. No, that, yep. I think, yeah, I don't know if it's the same in Scotland, but our culture is like that. Like, you achieve and then you gain importance or value. And in God's eyes, it's so flipped. Like, but it is hard to shift that with culture telling you something different. So yeah, I love that he gave you that message. And I also love your like personal relationship with God. It's like one of the most beautiful that I've seen. Like, Krista really is a friend of God. How did that form? And yeah, how did that form? Yeah.
Well, I think first off, I've been very privileged to be raised in a Christian home, and a healthy Christian home, and so I guess I have always known God, from, I can't remember not being aware of God. So I guess that was a good standing, for me, and I had some good, examples, some good input and stuff when I was young. But I think probably, I don't know, that there's a lot of things we could say. I think a few things stand out to me. I think one, straight after, so I did uni, and then I did what we call a probation year, which sounds like jail. It's not, which is teaching, or first year in teaching. And so you have to do that to be a fully qualified teacher, which is what I did. And after I'd done that, I did a year out with my church, and I was like, well, I've done all my things I have to do, right? I had to go to school, I had to go to uni, and then to be fully qualified, I had to do my probation. And so I wanted to I didn't do like a gap year before uni. I wanted to take some time to think about what I wanted to do with my life, and to see what I felt like God wanted me to do with my life, and to be able to do that with honesty, without being like, yeah, once I've done these things, then I can do whatever. But there was something really nice about doing that after I had done all those things, and say, okay, well, whatever you say, whatever way I feel led, I can do that, and I have freedom to do that. And near the start of that year, I guess one of the strongest senses I had was the sense of God saying to me, you need to learn to hear my voice. And I wouldn't say I was super unaware of it before. It wasn't like, crazy concept, but I was like, okay, yeah, that seems fair enough. And so I didn't have like a training manual or anything, but I just thought, well, I should listen. That's what I'll do, because that seems a good place to start. So I normally would have just read my Bible and then prayed in the morning and then just moved on with my day. But I just started setting an alarm for 5 minutes every day at the end of that time, and I would just sit in silence and listen. And I didn't hear anything for like months and months, but I didn't have a better plan, so I just stuck with it. I just thought, well, why not? So I stuck with it, and I felt I began to hear God saying to me, "Be still and know that I am God." And I was like, "What do you think I'm doing here?" But that was the sense I had, and that same message just came to me for again, at least a month, probably a few months. And then after that, I started to hear some more specific things or different things, I guess. And I just carried on with that. And nowadays I don't set an alarm, but now I probably, I know I do spend a lot more time listening than speaking. But that's been, I don't know, 15 years or something that I've been doing that for. And I think that, I think that's had a significant impact. And I think that practice of setting aside that time without distraction has then helped me when I'm in lots of different environments and throughout my day and doing different things, to be aware of the presence and the voice of God, what that sounds like. So I think that's one part, but I think probably more than that. I think there's been a number of times where life has been very hard. So I, very long story short, had a sports injury 15 years ago, nearly 15 years ago. And then I've had all manner of complications off the back of that. And so I have been in pain every day since then. And I have experienced some miraculous healing. I've also experienced some new injuries. I've experienced a bunch of surgeries, seen more professionals than you could shake a stick at. I don't know if that's a phrase you guys have, but it's a phrase
I like that.
It means a lot. Anyway, and I guess there's been a few times within that journey where there's been some times where I have intentionally stopped showing up to God because it's been too difficult. And then I guess I've realized, wait a minute, like I'm just not going to get through this on my own. That's not actually an option. And so I need to process the challenges that I've had with God and whatever, because that's the only option. I don't actually have another choice. And so I have, I guess, been through phases of forgiving God, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but I had felt like I was wronged. And so I was like, well, if it was somebody else who I'd felt like I was wronged, I would forgive them. So that's all I know what to do. Or other times realizing there was just stuff in me that was making me not show up fully presently to God, and recognizing that much as that's understandable, that is not gonna it's not gonna lead me to life ultimately. And so I need to process those things and work through those things, because I'm just not gonna make it through on my own. That's probably the reasons.
Yeah. I feel like having watched just a snapshot of your story over the past year or two, it's like, it's just amazing, like, to watch how you've lived your life literally in pain every day, like, and you still show up and you're like leaning into God. And like, I know like one of the biggest questions people ask, like, well, why is there suffering? you know, like if God is good, why is there suffering? And it's like, I just feel like you're like, I don't know, people, we've talked about this, like people could turn to any other thing, and you've chosen to like stay, and it's just stunning. And yeah, it's just, it's remarkable. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about I just think there's something, I feel like God is talking about this with the nation or the globe, just this concept of movement. And I know you have a really cool coach. Anything that you're learning just about the body or processing emotion, or like anything that you'd want to share with listeners that might help them too?
Mm, yes, I have indeed been learning a lot, particularly this last year. Um, I guess, what have I been learning? Yeah, so I for a lot of times this past year, there's this song from this film Once, and there's a line in it that's kept coming back to me, which says, "You have suffered enough and warred with yourself. It's time that you won." And I have, it's just kept on coming back and kept on coming back, and God quite often speaks to me through song lyrics, and I've been like, what is this? And I'm like, yeah, well, I for sure have suffered plenty, and I for sure have warred with myself. What does it mean to win? And what is that? And I guess my realization, yeah, I guess it's been part of my realization is that actually I have warred with myself. I think for a long, long time I have blamed my body for not doing what I want it to do. I have blamed my emotions for not uh, being the way I want them to be. Um, and it's felt like those, both my body and my emotions and nervous system, I guess, are like against me. And so it's felt like they're letting me down. I'm like, why are they ruining my life? And what is wrong with them, and therefore what is wrong with me? Um, and I guess this year, I think the what it feels like is the way to win, um, is to make peace with those different parts of myself, to make peace with my body, to make peace with my emotions, and yeah, the kind of trauma responses I've had to some of what I've been through, and recognize that they're not against me, that they are not trying to ruin my life, that they are not defective. Um, there's not something wrong with them, but actually they are doing their best at trying to keep me safe. Um, and they have not always been the most effective at doing that. Um, but um, but I guess I've been on a real journey of um, shifting from a place of blame to a place of compassion, within, to myself, to my body, to my emotions, and my nervous system, and the way that is. Um, and um, yeah, it's not all done yet, for sure. But I think, even though, yeah, I was just speaking to my counselor last week, and she said, "You seem much more at peace." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I feel more at peace, because I feel more like one person as opposed to many parts which are warring with each other. And so, yeah, I guess, which is maybe not quite an answer to your question, but but I guess within all of that, learning about yeah, how all the different parts of us interact and impact each other, and how that, not that I'm, yeah, I mean, people know a lot more than I do, but beginning to learn some of the edges of some of that, and I think it's really helpful to be aware of, and to try and steward what we have as best as we can.
It's so powerful. So powerful. Oh, you're amazing, Christa. You really are. Well, as we wrap up, this is going to just lighten things a bit, but what are some of your favorite Scottish phrases?
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Oh, so many. Some favorite frosted Scottish. Well, it's Scottish phrases and words. Yeah. So I just have an American lodger who's just moved in with me, and so that's always fun as well. Being like, oh, these are things that you should know. So Dreich. I was telling her yesterday the weather was Dreich, which is it's like gray, and it's like it's a little bit windy, but it's not like blowing a gale, and it's like raining, but not like raining. It's like just it's kind of like you're walking through a cloud. It's just Dreich. And I think that's a good word because it is sounds like what it is. So, yeah.
Is the weather often like that in Scotland?
Oh, yes, yes, very regularly like that. I would say, I mean, this last week, probably 4 days out of 7 were Dreich, maybe more. Today was glorious. We had beautiful sunshine. The rest of the week was pretty Dreich. So particularly this time of year, Dreich is common.
I love that.
So, yeah, I do enjoy some of the Aberdonian phrases. They have a dialect up there called Doric, and that has made its way into the general way that people speak. So they would say, for example, they would say "fit like," which means "how are you," which is quite fun because yeah. So that's always enjoyable, and it's always enjoyable watching.
I love that.
What?
Not like, are you going to the gym to get fit, but how are you?
No, yes, fit like. So yeah. One thing I have been actually speaking to my movement coach who's American this week about is our use of quite, which is a little different from you guys. And this is a trouble that Americans come across, is when we're talking about something negative, we use quite the same way you guys do. So it's like, it kind of means very, right? So it's quite bad, like, but when it's something positive, quite does not mean very, it means only a little bit. So if you say that cake is quite nice, that is an insult, not a compliment.
Oh no.
And my old flatmate, who was also American, only discovered this the week she was leaving, and she was like, wow, I've been rude to everybody this whole time. Like, they served me some food and I said it was quite nice, and I'm like, yeah, that is rude.
Oh no.
So that's a heads up for any Americans, that yeah, the quite nice, quite good, no, just don't say that unless you want to be insulting. So yeah.
So funny.
So yeah, there you go.
Good heads up.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. Oh, Christa, thank you so much. This was so yeah, just so much wisdom. Thank you for being so real. And thank you for your insights, and I'm just so grateful for who you are. As we wrap up, would you mind just sharing a blessing over our listeners, whatever comes to mind? And thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah, I will. I guess my blessing would be that may you know that God is not disappointed in you. May you know that He, in fact, loves you very, very much and is pleased with you. And that all He really wants is to see and be shown the real person that you are, and to be invited into your heart, your real, genuine. And may you have the courage to do that. That's my prayer. May it be a blessing.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Christa.
You're very welcome.
Such a gift.
See you soon. Bye.